Hi, my name's Damon Coulter. I'm a photographer and photojournalist based in Japan. As you can imagine, these jobs keep me pretty busy and on my toes photographically wise. I never really know from one day to the next what kind of images I'm going to be expected to take. I might be shooting models, a political rally, or using a wide-angle lens to shoot some of the colour and energy of a local matsuri or festival. Another day I might be using a telephoto lens to photograph a famous celebrity arriving. Because of the variety of images that I use, it's very important to me that the lenses that I use working at the best of their ability. Tools that I found incredibly useful to make sure that this happens: the Sigma USB dock and the unique software that comes with it, which is the Sigma Optimization Pro. For this tutorial, I'd like to show you how to use these tools. For this, you're going to need a computer, of course, and the Sigma USB dock, and the Sigma Optimization Pro software that comes with it. The software is able to be downloaded from the Sigma website free of charge, and it comes in both Mac and Windows formats. It also comes in a variety of different languages, so you should be able to find a system that works best for you. I'm going to take you through this step by step. After you install the Sigma Optimization Pro, start the program, and immediately this simple and intuitive interface appears, making it very easy to work with your lenses. It's very easy to attach the lens to the USB dock. Very simply, take the dock and your lens and match up the red dots as you would when you're attaching it to a camera. Twist it on. Later, when you want to take the lens off the USB dock, release the lever here by pulling up, twist, and take off. Once your lens is attached to the USB dock, attach the USB dock to your computer with the USB cable. The information for the lens will appear in the main window. This is the History of Connected Lenses window. This window shows all your Sigma lenses, and it makes it very easy to manage them. The currently connected lens appears here in orange, whilst previously connected lenses appear here in white. When your lens is connected to the USB dock, the connection LED in the center lights up, and you can tell the connection is secure and everything is working fine. One important thing to remember when using the Sigma USB dock is that you mustn't take the lens out of the USB dock when you're updating the software or making any adjustments. To do this might actually damage the lens. Okay, so let's start with a really important feature: updating the lens firmware. Yeah, I didn't know you could do that either. Most of us are aware that our digital cameras have firmware which we need to update, and most of us do keep our firmware up to date. But modern lenses also have firmware which needs to be updated. By updating the firmware on a lens, it's often possible to fix many of the small issues and problems that can occur with extended use. Now, most of us sent our lenses back to be serviced in the past, which is when the firmware was updated. Sigma USB dock changes all of that. We're able to actually update the firmware on our lenses at home over the internet. Okay, so let's use the Sigma USB dock to update the firmware on our lens. First, you need to make sure that you're connected to the internet. With your lens connected, click on the firmware update on the home screen. If a new version of the firmware is available, the dialog box will say latest firmware of this lens is available. If you need further information, check here, and then click yes. Easy, isn't it? We just did a manual firmware update, but every time you connect the lens to the USB dock, it automatically checks to see if an update is available. Then you can perform any other adjustments all in one go. So now it's really easy to keep all of the firmware in your lenses up to date and current. It's a lot easier than sending it back to the manufacturer for servicing. Now, let's have a look at customizing your lenses with Sigma Optimization Pro. Focus is one of the most important adjustments we can make to a lens. It's not just pro shooters, but anybody who shoots a lot of pictures prefers to have their images in focus and sharp. I'm sure we've all had the experience where we take an image and it looks great in the viewfinder and perhaps even on the screen at the back of the camera. But when we get it home and look at it on the computer, we notice the focus is just a little off. Perhaps we're shooting a model and we focus on the eye, but when we get it home and on the computer, we notice that the nose is more in focus. With the Sigma USB dock, we're able to actually adjust the focus at home. And with this one small adjustment, we can really make a lens that is truly personalized for your shooting style. First, click on Customization. Then, click on Focus Settings at the top of the Customization menu, and this will take you to the Focus Setting Adjustment screen. And now, we can make the adjustment. For zoom lenses, you can set the focus for 4 focusing distance ranges, and also 4 shooting distance ranges, for a total of 16 different ranges. If you do a focus setting adjustment on the camera itself, that affects the focus in every single range. But with the Sigma USB dock, you can make some really fine focus setting adjustments. Okay, let's try actually making an adjustment for a zoom lens. Click on the cell of the range you'd like to adjust. In this case, let's adjust the settings for the focus distance of 150mm and the shooting distance of 10 meters. After you've made the selection, you can adjust the settings using the spin box at the top or the slider underneath. To shift the focus towards the front, move the settings towards the minus side. And to shift towards the back, move the settings towards the plus side. The key to using this setting is to compare photographs of the same scene before and after you've made the adjustments. Click the Rewriting button and then the Agree button to process the customization. Once the rewriting finishes, the confirmation dialog box will appear. Click Close and the customization is complete. Now, take some more photographs to see if the change is working for you. Keep adjusting until you have the focus settings exactly the way you want them. All of this sounds very involved and like a lot of hard work. And it is. I wish there was a way to do this all automatically, but really the best judge of what is right for you and your lens is you. So at the end, all the effort will be worth it when you have pin-sharp images and a truly personalized lens. Okay, let's have a look at how we can customize manual focus settings on your Sigma lens. With full-time manual focus switched on, Sigma lenses allow you to actually manually adjust the focus even while the lens is autofocusing. You can also switch this feature off. Another thing you can do is adjust the sensitivity of the focus ring, namely how much you need to turn it before manual focus is engaged. As a pro shooter, I can tell you this can have a significant effect on the type of images that you can take. Once these adjustments are made, it's very, very easy to react to many different situations that we might find when we're out shooting. Sometimes, of course, we can't put the camera on a tripod and the subject itself is moving, like, for example, if we were shooting from a boat. Other times, of course, we can accidentally touch the focus ring. Perhaps we're being jostled in a demonstration or at a concert, and this can push our images out of focus, and we might want to reduce the sensitivity of the focus ring so that we don't accidentally manually focus. On the other hand, of course, we might want to increase the sensitivity of the focus ring so that we can adjust from the autofocus to the manual focus more easily and more quickly and not miss any shots. So let's see how we can actually make these adjustments. Click on Customization and then click on the full-time manual focus settings, second from the top of the customization menu. Here you can turn full-time manual focus on or off, and you can set the amount of focus ring rotation required to activate it. One thing to keep in mind is that depending on your mount, the default full-time manual focus setting may be either on or off. In my case, the default setting is off. If I want to turn it on, I click on full-time manual focus on, and then I click on the rewriting button, and then the agree button to process the customization. Once the rewriting finishes, the confirmation dialog box appears and I click on close. And I have customized this setting. Next, let's adjust the amount of rotation required to activate full-time manual focus. First, make sure that full-time manual focus is on, Then, to adjust the degree of rotation required, click the buttons in the spin box or drag the slider. Clicking or dragging towards the left lowers the value, and clicking or dragging towards the right increases the value and the sensitivity of the focus ring. Then, as with other settings, click the Rewrite button and then the Agree button to process the customization. The key point here is to really get a feel for how the focus ring reacts in different situations. A change you make may feel strange at first, but once you get used to it and once you find a setting that suits you, you'll be able to take images that really match your style. Okay, so let's take a look at customization mode. If your Sigma lens offers customization modes, you can access the customization mode here at this switch. It offers two complete sets of custom settings at C1 or C2, or you can turn the custom mode off here. Please keep in mind that not all Sigma lenses offer this functionality. If this functionality is not available on your lens, Sigma Optimization Pro will not let you access that page, so it's easy to tell what's going on. For each of the buttons, C1 and C2, you can customize the autofocus speed settings, the focus limiter settings, and the optical stabilization settings. Let's look how we customize the autofocus speed settings. I'd like to customize C1 for settings which are perfect for photographing nature. For example, birds flapping their wings and ready to take off. If I use the motor drive speed priority in this setting, I know that I can always switch to C1 and be ready to catch those kind of amazing shots. To make this change, click on Customization on the home screen, then Customization Mode Settings. From there, click on C1. At the C1 screen, select Autofocus Speed Settings. Imagine the situation in which you'll be using this setting and select Motor Drive Speed Priority, Standard, or Focus Accuracy Priority. So, I'm selecting Motor Speed Drive Priority. With this setting, autofocus is very quick to spring into action and I get the subject in focus. On the other hand, selecting Focus Accuracy Priority makes autofocus motor drive smoother. So, I've selected Motor Drive Speed Priority and now I click on OK. This takes me back to the previous screen and I click on Rewriting and Agree. Now, I just wait for the rewriting to complete. Press Close and it's done. And now, Focus Accuracy Priority is the autofocus speed setting for the C1 button. So far, I've only talked about adjusting the autofocus speed in the custom mode settings, but it's also possible to adjust the focus limiter settings and the optical stabilization settings for both the C1 and the C2 buttons. Try and think about the situations that might happen when you're shooting and create settings that best match your particular style. Next, let's look at the focus limiter settings. I like to use focus limiter when I'm photographing live events or sports. I really want to put the image focus on the stage and not include members of the audience or other players who may be in the foreground. This helps the viewer of my images feel they're really there. And it also concentrates the main focus and the main interest on the main subject of the image. So, let's see how we adjust these settings. As when we adjusted the autofocus speed settings, we click on Customization and then on Customization Mode Settings. From here we can select C1 or C2. Let's go with C2 this time. Next, we click on Focus Limiter Settings. On the settings screen, use the two sliders to set the range of the autofocus drive. The autofocus drive range is highlighted in orange. For example, in this case, I'm going to set the minimum focus distance to 10 meters with the left slider and the maximum photo distance to 30 meters with the right. Making this setting limits autofocus drive to between 10 and 30 meters. I click on OK and we go back to the previous screen and I click on Rewriting and Agree. After rewriting is complete, the focus limiter for the C2 is set on 10 to 30 meters. As you can see, it's quite easy to adjust the focus limiter settings as well. You can make the settings different for the C1 and C2 buttons and use them based on the particular photographic situation. The important thing to remember here is that many Sigma lenses already have a separate focus limiter switch. But if we're using the focus limiter on the C1 or the C2 button, these take priority, and the separate focus limiter switch is disabled. Okay, so now let's look at adjusting the optical stabilization settings. On the customization mode screen, choose OS settings. Now this setting affects the relationship between the optical stabilization and the image that I see in my viewfinder. And it's a very good setting to adjust before you head out on a shoot, depending on the conditions that you might encounter. For example, if I'm shooting models, I will often be moving the camera around quite a lot and adjusting frame and looking for different angles, and this can adversely affect the image that I see in my viewfinder. Now, rather than turn down the optical stabilization, I can actually smooth out what I see in my viewfinder with the OS settings. So let's give it a try. As before, we click on Customization, and then Customization Mode Settings. And here we can select C1 or C2. Let's choose C1 this time. Then we click on OS Settings. You have three modes to choose from: Dynamic View Mode, Standard, and Moderate View Mode. Dynamic View Mode brings a recognizable OS effect to the image in the viewfinder. Images tend to stick in place and remain stable. On the other hand, Moderate Mode causes the image in the viewfinder to be more natural. In the center is Standard, which is the default setting. So you select the setting you need based on the anticipated situation. I'm going to select Moderate Mode for photographing models with lots of different compositions. I click OK, and this takes us back to the previous screen, and I click on Rewriting. After rewriting is complete, the new OS setting is ready to use on the C1 button. So that's the end of our tutorial. Easy, wasn't it? The lens makes the photograph, which is why I use Sigma. And now, with the Sigma Optimization Pro software and the Sigma USB dock, you too can have the power to take a wider range of photographs that are truly yours.